Hey, everybody, and welcome to this very special bonus call this week. This call is just going to be about Module 1 and Module 2. So for all of you who've got any issues with selecting a product or finding a supplier, this call's for you. I do have some good news, and I also have some bad news. The good news is Mike won't be here today. No, sorry, I got that wrong. That's the bad news, that Mike won't be here today. The good news is we've got 3 mentors joining us live on the call. It was going to be 4, but unfortunately Elaine couldn't make it either. She sends her apologies. But before we go any further, we just want to do a quick sound check, as we always do with you guys. So all I need you to do is answer this question. Who is missing from the call? And you've got 2 choices now, because I gave you 2 choices, so either will do. So just post in the comments the person who or persons who's missing from this call. I'm just going to wait for the live update to go through. Someone's asked a question already. Very impatient. Mike. So I can't, Mizrachi, I can't pronounce the first bit. It actually says Rich, so I'm actually not here. So that's kind of cool. I'll go now and I'll leave it to everyone else. And he's just said, sorry, Mike, LOL. Mike and Elaine, yep, Mike. So great, you can all hear us. So because we've got, as I said, we've got 3 mentors live on this call, so I'm going to try and whiz through this. I've just got one specific thing I want to talk about briefly, even though it's not actually directly related to product selection suppliers, and it's good old friendly setting up your Seller Central account. It's just something I've noticed, something really, really important. If you are contacting me about Seller Central and you've sent me a private message and I've answered you back, if I ask you to send me documents, then I'll give you the email address to send them to. But that's the only thing that email address is for. Okay, don't start following up on there asking me questions. I do not respond to the emails at all. I very rarely even read them. Basically, I just get notified when there's one there with any download files in it, and I go and open them. And if and when you send me files, don't do it without me asking you to. Then make sure you reply in the comments, in the private message, not by email. So I will ask you, please send the documents to this email address. You send them, and then you reply in the comments on the thread of the private message, Rich, I sent you the comment. I sent you the documents. Otherwise, I won't know they're there, okay? And that's it. That's all I want to talk about. So we're going to jump straight into this. And Joanne, if you're ready, just jump in. Joanne Hayes, in case you didn't know her surname, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it. Well, what I wanted to talk about briefly was that 2019 is right around the corner, and this is a great opportunity for everyone to sit down and think about what your goals are for next year. Now, I know there's lots of programs out there, systems for setting goals and getting things done and that kind of thing, but I like to do things simple. So we're just going to kind of talk about something really simple this time. First thing I want you to do is I want you to sit down and take some time and write out a goal of where you want to see yourself on December 20th, 2019. Now, when you're setting this goal, I want you to be specific and I want you to make it measurable. For example, in this business, that might mean you want to say, I want X amount of revenue and X percentage of profit by December 20th, 2019. And once you've decided that, write it down. And then what I want you to do is take that goal and break it out for the next 4 quarters so that you can break it down into smaller goals. Keep in mind, you don't just divide it by 4. Your first quarter is going to be smaller, then grow in your second quarter and grow in your third, and so on and so forth, with your fourth quarter being your best one. But write this down. And then when you get that all written down, I want you to put it someplace where you can review it every day. One of the things I do is I just use my phone and I put it in a notepad file in here, and I can look at that every day. You can put it on your computer screen, in a journal, whatever you want to do, but make sure you review that every day and visualize it so that you can see it and feel it, know what it's going to feel like to meet those goals. Now, setting goals is great, but a lot of people set goals and then that's as far as it gets. They go to the next year, they change the date, they have the same goals. And that's not what we want for you. We want you to move forward. And keep in mind, we all have busy lives. And one of the things that we see a lot of members do is they get derailed because life just gets busy and they allow things to take away their time so that they don't have time to spend in their business because they're too busy taking care of other things in their lives. And I just want you to know that that's always going to happen if you allow that to happen. What you need to do is arrange things so that this is a priority and that you create a habit of consistent action so that the world will eventually work around you and you'll get this done. So what you want to do is decide how many days a week you're going to work, whether it's 3 days, 5 days, or 7 days, and set aside that time and make that an appointment. Find a place in your house or apartment or wherever you live where you can be alone and uninterrupted. I read a story about a woman who started a business in her closet. She literally had like a little closet, walk-in closet. She had her desk in there, but she could close the door and the world stayed out so she could focus on her business. If you have to find a closet, find a closet. But in the living room is not going to work. The kitchen table isn't going to work if you've got your family running around and interrupting you. You need some privacy and some time so that you can focus in on what you're doing. There's a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and he talks about how when you look at someone who's an overnight success, what you don't see before they became an overnight success is all the work that went into what they did to make that happen. And that's what you need to do, is set aside and create those habits so that you can take that consistent action and be able to be, everyone else will see it as an overnight success, and you know it's because you took all that consistent action all year and kept focused on those goals. Now, a couple other things real quick you want to do. Be sure you work in some playtime. All work and no play is no fun. So make sure you also set aside time where you're going to spend time with your family and your spouse or your significant other or your kids. And also work in some rewards. When you meet certain mini goals, work in some rewards. You know, that's something to celebrate, whether it's taking a day off or buying yourself something or just going out to dinner, whatever it is that is going to feel good to you to reward yourself for working hard and the job well done. We work better when we know that there's smaller rewards out there, not just the end of the year reward, but like all through the year, little rewards. One of the things I did want to mention too is that in order to get things done on a regular basis, a simple way of doing that is to just write down 3 to 6 things every day that you're going to work that you want to get done. Jack Canfield used to just write it on an index card, and he kept that card with him all day. You can put it on your phone in the notepad section. You can put it on your computer, whatever you want to do. But write down 3 to 6 things that you want to get accomplished every day. Don't write a big, long to-do list. Just that simple, small list each day so that it's achievable and you can feel good. Now, if that means you add more because you got all those done, that's great. If you don't get them done, roll them over to the next time. But that's what you need to do to create consistent habits so that you can get things done. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And now let's get on to some questions here. All right, these are some of the questions that were posted in the community. So the first question I have here was from Khalil Madani. And they said, should my product have the same price of the primary product, even though it's a better version of it? Well, that's a good question. Pricing is always really tough. And it's just something you have to keep testing and trying and testing and trying. It's also a perception issue. So, for example, a lot of people will perceive the cheapest product as maybe being cheap. And a higher price product is just because it's a higher price, it must be a better quality. So what you kind of want to do is just sort of figure out what price is going to work best. Maybe you start with a little bit of higher price and see whether people are willing to pay that for your product. Maybe you come in and it doesn't work and you lower the price a little bit. Just sort of keep trying and testing on that until you find the right spot for that particular product. The next question is by Social May Media. If we have a product we want to improve and have 2 suppliers creating the product bundle, how do we ship it all together to Amazon? 2 supplier manufacturers for 1 product listing. That's a great question because whatever you ship to Amazon has to be ready to go. They're just going to grab, pack, and send. So you do, if you're coming with products from 2 different manufacturers to form 1 main product, you do need to have them put together. There's companies that will do this for you. You can either have it done in China or you can have it done in the US. I know FBA Inspection, and I believe it's FBAinspection.com. I think they offer that service. What they can do is either put it in a whole different packaging, or you can even just have them put the 2 products in a poly bag and then label it for Amazon. That would work too. The next question is, Okay, now I'm not sure I understand what this question is, and this is by Miyuki. What color/logo options do you offer in? And then the next sentence is, in the initial supplier contact message, what do you mean logo options? Oh, okay. I thought this, so are you asking if why we're having you ask what color logo options? Anyway, let me just try and say this. Okay, when you contact your supplier, they're going to hopefully have packaging that you can use, and you can either take that template and create a whole different packaging, have a designer create packaging for you, and then they just take that and print out their boxes or their bags or whatever it is they use to package. And some of them will just take your logo and they'll just add your logo to the pre-done packaging they have. So that's what you want to find out from the suppliers, really more so than what the logo options are, but what are the packaging options? And then maybe color. Do they print black and white? Do they print in color? And then what files do they need to be able to print that? Whether they need a JPEG file, an AI file, vector file. So you can ask them that. Hopefully I answered that question. If I didn't, please post in the community and we can try that again. So I have two questions here about Alibaba and LinkedIn. So I'm going to read them both and then kind of respond. So the first question is, I'm having trouble syncing my ASM email to my regular account, plus Alibaba is fixing my LinkedIn sign-in issue, so I'm being delayed for about 5 days. Is that okay? And then the next question is, when creating an Alibaba profile, LinkedIn option did not show up, so I created the Alibaba profile following the steps they outlined. But now my LinkedIn profile is not connected to Alibaba. Is there a way to connect them after the Alibaba profile is created? Well, first off, you don't have to have your LinkedIn connected to the Alibaba profile. You can just have the Alibaba profile and just go in and communicate with suppliers that way. So for example, the first question, is it okay if they're delayed 5 days? There's no reason for you to be delayed. Just log into Alibaba and start searching for suppliers. And the second question, you don't have to connect your LinkedIn to Alibaba. You can check your profile and see if there's a way to make that work, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time doing that. I would just focus more on finding suppliers. The next question is, my husband and I want to launch 2 different products at the same time or near the same time. Can we use one Seller Central account and be under the same brand? The products are not related. So first off, if you're starting out, we prefer you don't launch 2 products at one time. We prefer you start with one product, get that up and running, learn how to do that, because even despite all the lessons you get in ASM, and it covers a lot of details, when you actually do the work, you're going to be surprised how much more you learn. So one product at a time. But in your Seller Central account, you can have more than one brand. That's not a problem. So you have a seller name, and then your brands will be underneath that. So that's not a problem at all. And the next question is, my primary product has so many fake reviews. How come the seller sells one thing and the reviews are about something completely different? Is this legit? Because of that, do you think Jungle Scout shows me the correct data for this product? Okay, one of the things that happens that gets a little glitchy is that sometimes sellers will try to, like a new seller will try to snag the reviews from another listing. So they'll list under that as a variation and combine reviews from completely unrelated products. It's very strange. I really don't understand all the details on how that happens. I did have it happen to one of my products. I had to contact Seller Central. They had to unconnect everything so that I got all my reviews back. But there was a period there where I had my product and my reviews, and then there were these reviews for these weird, odd products that had nothing to do with my product. So that's probably what's going on in that particular situation. And that might skew the data in Jungle Scout because I'm not sure how deep that goes. So you may want to check back with that one and see if that will provide better data later on once the seller realizes what's going on with that. All right, so the next question by, I'm going to say this wrong, Suki Lee 08. is it a good idea to not have any printed logo on the packaging and product due to budget constraints for the first inventory order? There is an MOQ minimum requirement that needs to be fulfilled, and I can't commit to that, the MOQ quantity for the time being. You know, if that's what you have to do to get started and you start with more of a generic, yes, it's best if you can get a logo on there. It's best if you can get your packaging on there. But if you simply can't do that for that first order and you want to test this product and see if this will work for you, that's okay. You can start that way. You're just going to have to maybe get a little more creative in your pictures to make sure that it shows your product different from everybody else's. But you can certainly start that way, and then as you see success with that and build some profit, then hopefully you can have enough money to be able to buy a larger order and get the packaging the way you want it. And the next question with Sabarif 7. For imported products, can you include Made in China wording on the insert you plan on putting inside the package? You can put that on the insert inside the package if you want, but you have to have it on the outside of the package. That's a requirement that you indicate. It's not just made in China. You're supposed to say wherever your product is from, whether it's made in the USA or made in China or made in Taiwan. That is supposed to be on the outside of your packaging, so you want to make sure you do that. But if you want to put it on the inside too, that's fine. The next question is from Randall Pinson. While searching for primary products, is it okay if they have color variations but the size stays the same, or is it not okay for our first product to have any variation of size or color? Okay, so the issue with the variation is that sometimes it's very difficult to know what the sales data and the BSR and everything is for each specific color or size. Sometimes that's separated out and sometimes it isn't. So that's what you're going to have to really check and see if you're able to find that separate information so that you know whether it's the red or the blue that's selling, or whether it's the large or the small that's selling the most. And then you can start. Size is sometimes a little bit tougher, more so than color, I guess, depending on what it is. So, because if you go with this type of a product, you want to be sure you're going with the color or the size that's selling the most. So if you can't distinguish that, then I would move on to a different product. The next question, I'm not even going to say this one. I'll just read the question. When looking for a competing product, I had a list of primary products yesterday, and today I was looking for competing products. When I noticed that one of my primary products has changed the BSR from 492 to 2,164. That's quite a drop. It is still inside the BSR range, but should I update my workbook or what? Okay, so several things could have happened. When you saw it at 492, it could have been they were running a promotion, so it was a little bit higher. It could be that they're running out of inventory, so it's dropping. One way to really check is to figure out what their BSR history is. And you can do that when you look in Jungle Scout and hover over that BSR. It should pop up and you'll see the history so that you can kind of get an idea of how that product has worked. BSR is a constant moving number, so you're never always going to see it the same, but what you want to do is sort of see a history on it. And the last question is from Sabarif 7. Oh, I already answered that question. Oh, that's right, because I answered that question about the LinkedIn. So I am done. So Rich, actually, that was my last question. I'm sorry I didn't warn you.
That's okay, no problem at all. Fantastic job. And I loved your bit about goal setting. It's something like I fail to do on a regular basis.
Me too.
And it's such a powerful thing and a simple thing to do. And it can really like motivate you to keep moving forward. So thank you so much for that. Absolutely awesome, as I expected. So I hope you all enjoyed that. So we've got another mentor for you now. So Tracy, are you waiting and ready? She is. Take it away, Tracy.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's getting ready for the holiday and having fun. So I'm gonna just start off giving a little bit of a talk about suppliers and negotiating with them. We see a lot of questions in regards to what to do with the suppliers. They're coming back with questions. Is this the final price when they've quoted the first time? And what we tell them, remember, this is the very beginning of a relationship. It's the very beginning of the communication with the supplier. So there's always room to negotiate. And when we talk about negotiation, we're not always just talking about dropping the price or getting a better price. It could be numerous things when you're negotiating with them, to the production time, to the sample cost, to what they may charge for the packaging and upgraded packaging. Any of those items you can negotiate with. So sometimes suppliers like to keep their firm price on the item, but are willing to work with those other type of things. So it's never a problem to ask the question and continue that communication. If your supplier knows you're willing to work with them and you're also going to be moving forward and building a very good relationship for both yourselves in the business and them, and it becomes a partnership, they'll be willing to work with that. So just take the time, look at it, and don't necessarily always try and just look at the price as a negotiation, but look at all the factors. And it'll really benefit. Plus, you'll get to communicate a little bit more, and you may learn a few more things that you might not have realized by not opening up those lines of communication with them. So that's probably the best what I have to say. Besides, remember, they are also doing their best when talking with many of them that are outside of the U.S., especially the ones in China. English may not be their first language, and at times they may misinterpret something, or they may not answer all the questions. So don't get frustrated, don't get upset. Just go back with them and just clarify the things and simplify it for them if necessary. And if a diagram, if you're talking about a logo, helps, draw them a picture, make a little flow chart so they can visualize it as well. Because remember, if we were asked to speak in their language, I would almost say that 95% or more would not be able to do that type of communications as well. So just take those into consideration as well when you're speaking and negotiating with the suppliers. So after that little bit, then I can go ahead and get into also some of the questions from the community here. Seems to be a little bit of theme with these ones, so we're going to go through them. We'll start with the first one here. It's from the Unruly Bear. The question is, in Module 2, it was explained that I can either have the finished product inventory shipped to my home address or stored in a freight forwarder's warehouse. Please elaborate on the storage cost and the logistics of using the freight forwarder's warehouse. Well, in regards to the storage cost, it would be relevant if you, sorry, I was reading a message that I came across. The storage would be relevant if you elected not to ship all of the product to Amazon. So first, that's your deciding factor. So if you chose to keep some of it at your freight forwarder's warehouse, then you would have some storage there. But it can vary depending on the freight forwarder. So the only way to understand the exact amount is to have that conversation with your freight forwarder. If you don't store any there, then you do not have storage costs from their facility. It would go to Amazon and you have the Amazon storage costs. One way or the other, you have storage costs. You would have that in any business. So you just need to see which is best for you and which route you're going to take. In regards to the logistics from the freight forwarder, you would just use Amazon's partner carriers and take advantage of the massive discount rates. Some freight forwarders will elect or offer to do the final leg of the transportation, but I would recommend that you stick with Amazon's carriers, because I've been in the industry with logistics for many of years, and I haven't seen any company have better rates than Amazon. So utilize that for your last leg from the freight forwarder's warehouse, and it's very easy. Mike walks you how to do the shipping label in the training, and you just send those labels to the freight forwarder, and then they can move the freight through the carriers from Amazon. Okay, our next question is, after booking with Freightos and submit the detail information, then some information needs to be changed, like weight per carton or carton dimensions. Will I be able to adjust them? If yes, will the price change as well? And then when will I pay import taxes, and will I pay freightos? So when you're getting an estimate, it is truly an estimate. However, you should try and use as close as possible to the weight and the dimensions and that you're going to be using for your shipment. And then when you actually do the booking, you will give the exact, say your supplier makes 10 more boxes, so it changes it by a few pounds, or the dimensions are slightly different. It will vary slightly, but it should not be that much of a difference. It could also go down at that point too. It's not always up. It depends on the freight and the space. So it'll be a slight variation, but the estimate will be really good for you just to help you with the costing part of your product. Normally, you pay your import duty taxes when your freight forwarding request, which is normally once the shipment clears customs in the United States, then customs will request that payment be made. Most freight forwarders pay that for you and then come back to you immediately to collect that. So it's usually probably within about 5 to 7 days of your shipment arriving in the United States. So. Okay, next question. This is from a gentleman named Lee, or a person named Lee, sorry. My supplier quoted XWorks and FOB for lower and higher MOQs respectively. Can I go with an XWorks quotation since I have a lower budget? But will it be safe though, or is this where the freight forwarders come into play? So it's better to go with an FOB port price. Because you're not familiar with the inland side of the transportation in China. And your supplier will probably have a better FOB price. But the one thing you need to remember, you will still have to pay that even if you went with an export. Your freight forwarder would just be including it in his cost. So it's not one or the other. That freight is either just going to be paid in advance by the supplier, or your freight forwarder has to encompass it in the whole entire price. So even with XWorks, and we recommend the FOB because most suppliers have a much better inland freight rate to the port. So request the FOB port, and then you can have your freight forwarder get the shipment at the port and bring it to the United States. Next question is from Tony Biz 832. Please tell me how to get import shipping estimate. The lesson did not help me. Read all the regarding inquiries, full formula, please. So honestly, this can be a very lot of detail, and there's not enough time on the calls to go through a full formula of this. So if you are not comfortable with following how the tool was used in the training for the estimate, I would just definitely recommend contacting one of the freight forwarders that is in the resource vault, which is RAM or Riviera, and then you can just give them the details for your shipment, like what the weights are, the boxes, and that. They specialize in this. They can help you, and that's really what you want, especially if you're at the stage where the estimate is as you're not able to figure that out. So go to them. They're really good people on staff. They'll be able to help you, and they'll get you an estimate. And then they'll also be able to help you with bringing this stuff in there as well, okay? The next question is from Howard and Beverly. The latest webinar by Matt Clark said that launching of a product for the first time may cost a capital of between $500 and $2,500. Will there be any risk associated if I use more than $2,500 capital? Well, this is going to sound pretty easy to think, but there's always any risk in any business, no matter if it's $500 or $50,000. There's always the risk. But the thing here that you have to remember is that if you follow the training and you stay within the ASM criteria, that risk is minimized very much so. So I don't know how many times we always tell this. Really follow the training, stay within that criteria, especially on your first product. Listen to what Rich and Mike say through the training and do that, and your risk is minimized, because this is why they recommend 500 to, 1,000 MOQs. You don't want to go out and buy 10,000 because you open up more risk. So follow the training, and it minimizes that very much so for you. And you can see that by all the members that have been truly successful. Okay, the next question is, when calculating final profit, I tried the MOQ for 1,000. The importing cost difference is 50 cents cheaper. In this case, should I go big with that 1,000 or stick with 500 for the initial inventory? Both give a good profit margin. 1,000 has a higher net margin than 500. Okay, so the training does recommend between 5 to 1,000, so you're in the range. So my recommendation is just to look at your numbers. What's the upfront cost for the product? What's the lead time if you order 500 and then you immediately need another 500? And if you can make it work, then go with a larger MOQ. But look at everything. I mean, to say 50 cents per unit is what it is. Look at, is that $5,000 you're spending or $10,000, and what that does to your, the cash that you have available to continue the marketing or whatsoever that you got. Okay, the next question here, we're looking at the competing products. Most of them, 5 to 8 of them are in rank, but some of them are totally out of rank, yet the product details are similar, just a little different dimensionally. Do we delete them or do we ignore them that are out of range? So if you look at the training, basically you need 2 competing products that meet the ASM competing product criteria. So if you have those 2, you're good to go. If they have the same function, you're good to go. The design can be slightly different. That's okay. So you're looking for a minimum of 2 and with the same function. So based on what you found, that sounds like it's a viable product. Okay, the next question. I just wanted to ask about shipping directly from China to Amazon, the process and details, as I am and many others are working from out of the US, and even members here I saw, although they are living in the US, but they do not have warehouse or a place to ship their product to forward to Amazon. So we would not recommend for your first shipment sending your product directly to Amazon. There are some requirements that are necessary, and you need to make sure you fully understand them. And with a new supplier, you still want to have that ability to have your product stopped and checked before it goes on. So even if you are outside of the US, that's not a problem. There's facilities as your freight forwarders that can help you. And there's also a service, just like Joanne mentioned, like FBA inspections or Zebra Pals. They're both in the resource vault. You can send your product to them, and they can look at it for to check for damages, make sure everything's okay, damages in transit or whatnot, and then from there send it to Amazon. So it's not, there's numerous members, actually Steve on this call, he's not in the US and he has his product sent over. So tons of people can do that, and it's not a problem. So check those options, the freight forwarders or the other companies in the resource vault. Okay, the next question here is, I found a hot opportunity product with some improvements needed. Lots of negative reviews mentioned. I even found an improved product on Alibaba, but the cost of the product is 2 to 3 times higher than the original one. So if I get that product, I would need to increase the price. Do you think it's a good idea, or is it better to buy the same product and improve it and just a little so it will not cost much? I'm afraid that the small improvements will not really fix the problem that people mentioned in their reviews. So while this is a great potential product with the improvements, if you're not currently seeing the demand for it, I wouldn't recommend starting with it right now. You could put it on the back burner and look to start with the product that actually meets the criteria. So with that said, I'm not saying to offer the product that has all the issues, because you know it already has potential issues. Don't start with that. But if you think you can get that product either fine-tuned some that's going to make it, okay, but you don't have the demand right now for the higher priced one. So if you can't figure that out, put it on the back burner, take a look at it later, and look for something else for your first product. Okay, the next one, when using Freightos are the quotes we find telling us the price from the manufacturer or to the Amazon warehouse? Okay, for that one, it depends on what you requested. So if you've requested a quote FOB port, and then so the delivery address of your freight forwarder, that's what the quote is for. It's not direct to Amazon. So you would then have the shipping plan where you would use the Amazon rate. And when you create your shipping plan, they tell you what the cost is to go from that warehouse to the next one. Okay, next question. I don't live in the USA, so I can't send my products to a personal address in the US. Therefore, I would like to send the products to a freight forwarder. In module 2, yeah, that's a new one, sorry. In module 2, Mike explains to fill in freightos where the goods need to be picked up from. Do I ask the supplier which port the products will go? Mike used Ningbo in his example. Regarding delivery of the goods, it's unclear to me which zip code I should use at the freight forwarder, and Mike used Chicago in his example. Yes, you would need to ask your supplier what is the closest port to them, and that's the port you should use when you do your quote. And if you're unsure right now of your freight forwarder and their warehouse location, many people will use Long Beach, California, because most of the shipments from Asia will come over to the Long Beach, California area. So you can use that as a tentative as address right now. Just realize that your quote can change a little bit when you find out where exactly your freight forwarder is. So definitely need to port from the supplier, and then you can use Long Beach unless you actually speak with like RAM or Riviera again. They can tell you where their facilities are, and you can use their facility for the quote as well. Okay. Then our next question here is, for the first product, do you recommend using the freight forward inspection service or a dedicated inspection service? So right now, for a quality inspection, I would personally recommend using the company that we send a lot of people to, which is hkqcc.com. And they can do the quality inspection in China and then give you your report. And then if there is any issues, then you get to work with your supplier with it while the product's in China. When you get to your freight forwarder's facility, I would just have them looking for inspections for damages in transit and whatnot. And that would be personally how I would do it. And then the only thing that you'd have to worry about is if stuff came here, it was more of a damage or a packaging issue versus a per se quality issue. And then the last question here is, I received an email regarding Amazon referral fees. It looks like they're lowering fees. How does that affect our net profit margin in regards to the fulfillment fees by Amazon? So yes, the email did go out, and we put it on in most of the groups, but realize the ones where they're lowering the referral fee are certain categories, and in some categories it is for a product that sells less than $15, and in some other categories it's $10 or less. So if you are following the ASM training, this should not even apply to you, because all of your products should be selling for more than $17 per unit, because that's where the criteria is. So there is a lot of good information in that email, but for now, those referral fees really won't be applicable to the products we're selling at this time. So that's all I have.
That was phenomenal, Tracy. Thank you so much. I loved your tips about negotiating with suppliers. That was super helpful. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. Both of these guests, yes, they're mentors. So much better than Mike. It's just like such a relief. So really enjoying having you guys on. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you.
Steve, we saved the best for last. Are you ready?
I am, but I think my camera is not working again.
Oh, Caleb will probably fiddle with it. Fire away.
Right. Fire away, yes. I wanted to talk about product selection. I know when it comes to sourcing products, it can be a bit tough for some people. It does require a little bit of persistence and perseverance. So one of the things I see quite often in the community is people asking if they can sort of use the search string to skip some pages and start like at page 20. And that's a big fat no-no. I would never advise doing that kind of thing, because if you imagine you're looking for a product opportunity which is going to be on one of those pages, so you want to make sure that the page that product is on, that you actually go there and you search every single one. So don't skip any pages. Skipping pages means you just spend even longer searching for a product opportunity. So definitely don't do that. Go through every single page. And with that in mind, how far do you go when you're doing the searching? I mean, I would go in the big categories. I have found opportunities way beyond page 100. So dig and dig deep. If you keep digging and digging deep, you're going to go further than most other people do, and you're going to find way more opportunities than most other people will as well. The other thing I was going to say is regarding once you have your opportunities and you're starting to look at sort of product tuning, so you're going to fine tune and work out what you can add to the product or change to the product that will be different to everybody else, just to give you that edge over the other sellers. A lot of people just go to Jungle Scout, they sort of pull in the first page or two, and then they look through the reviews. I would suggest you pull in as many pages as you possibly can, sort your search results in Jungle Scout by reviews, and then go through those reviews. You can often find sellers that were once doing really, really well, hence the number of reviews that they were getting, and for one reason or another, they have fallen off. They're not on page 1 or page 2, and they're not selling like they used to. And those reviews can tell you why. Why are they not selling well anymore? Why were they not keeping up in the marketplace? So just keep digging. I mean, just to get those reviews, read as many of those reviews as you possibly can. It's all just great and free customer feedback. So that is my advice on product research. So over to the questions. So where are we? Ready. First one is from Turk Tomaz. Do we all have a chance for a successful business if we follow your guidelines? Although it seems there are hundreds or thousands of people trying the same, maybe even with the same products, being therefore a sort of internal silent competition. I think if you just follow the guidelines exactly, and I emphasize the word exactly because most people don't. Most people have their own views on what they should and shouldn't do. But if you do follow the training exactly, you will do well. You will sell well, and you're going to do very well. If you look at the successful sellers that you see around amazing.com who have done very well, the common theme is stick with the training. Stick with the training, and you're going to do great. Next one is from Sanella Comic. I'm wondering if it is reasonable to use Jungle Scout in the Christmas and New Year euphoria. Is the data going to be relevant? Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm going to be looking over the Christmas and New Year break as well. The only thing you need to do if you're seeing some sort of strange numbers or not sure is just look at the BSR number, click on that, and that will show you the BSR history. And then you can ascertain whether it's a good opportunity or whether that's just a spike because of the Christmas, New Year. You can also look at the down on the bottom right-hand side. There's a little sort of squiggly arrow. Click on that, and I believe it takes you to Google Trends. And again, you can see whether it's just because of the Christmas, New Year, whether it's a seasonal product or not. Next one is from Mar12. How many pages down should I look for when trying to find a product? Well, as far as you can. Just keep going until you don't see any opportunities that fit the criteria anymore. As I say, could be way past 100 in the big categories. You've gone through module 1 using Jungle Scout to find a product, but they have been excluded by competing products and reviews. So how far, I've already answered that one. So how far should you go down in categories? So I'll move on to the next one from Mar12. I live in the UK and I want to ship to the US. Can you tell me which Amazon warehouse and the address I should ship to? Also, do I need to use a freight forwarder, and how much will this cost roughly? With regards to the Amazon warehouse, you will be given that address once you create your shipment. But as Tracy just explained a few minutes ago, you can use, I think it's a Long Island address, because that's where most of the shipments will come in through if you want to get a sample price. But follow the training with regards to freight forwarder, and you'll be looking at Freightos, and I can't give you a cost roughly because it will depend on weight and size and time of year. But use Freightos, so follow that in the training. Mike does some pretty good training. It can take you through to see exactly how much it's going to cost. Next one is from Rachel Kruger. All right, I'm stuck in the product selection process, and when determining viability of primary product, How many competing products should I see in Jungle Scout list to make the primary product viable? You need to see 2 more products. So if you, I think it might be worth going back and looking through Rich's training on product selection. You need a primary product and you need 2 competing products. So basically you need 3 products that fit inside the ASM criteria. But probably worth going through the training and just refresh exactly what you need to do and then go and try again. Another one from Sabarif7. After product tuning specs figured out for my first choice product, should these enhancements be asked for from the 3 suppliers? If you can get the enhancements, it depends on what the enhancements are, but if it's something that they can do pretty easily to a single product and you can see them and sort of get them in your hand and have a good look at them, then yeah, if you can, that'd be awesome. So yeah, if you can, go for it. Next one is SM Khalili 17. I want to ship my inventory direct to Amazon warehouse from China. Does anybody know what is the Amazon warehouse's physical address? We advise against that because there are many complications with shipping direct to FBA warehouse from China, because you'll be using your supplier's shipping account, which means that they will have complete control of the shipping process and the products, your product. So you have no say in this whole process whatsoever. So if anything goes wrong, which it can sometimes do with customs, then your interests are not taken care of or looked out for. They'll be looking out for themselves. So we say you should use a freight forwarder because they're employed by you to look out for your interests, protect your interests, and make sure that your product gets through customs. So although it's a little bit more expensive and it can seem like a good idea to use their account, potentially it can cause you problems. So I think for the first 1 or 2, you probably want to employ a freight forwarder. With your physical address, like I said earlier, you will get that from Amazon once you actually create the shipment. Next one is from Adam Bannon. When doing product research for a second product, should we look for a product that relates to our first product so we can add to our existing brand? Or is it okay to jump at an opportunity for an unrelated product and start a new brand around that if it appears to be a better opportunity? It's entirely up to you, really. The idea is to build a brand. That's the training. The training says, you are building a brand, but that's not to say that your first product has to be the one that governs what your brand is. If you see something else that you prefer and you've got the experience from that first launch to go and look at another brand, then yeah, it's entirely up to you. It's like, it's your business. So if that's the way you think you should go, then definitely you go for it. This is from Nick Wicks. I think that's pronounced that right. Nick Wicks. Anyway, I know you said we should stay away from oversized products. Is there a way to work out a product's profit margin if it is oversized? I'm willing to jump through the hurdles as long as it's profitable. This particular product is very light but oversized. Just do exactly the same as you're taught. I think it's Mike that teaches you how to use the FBA revenue calculator. Just make sure you find an ASIN for a product that's similarly oversized and enter the price and all the other details as well. And that will show you what your profit margin could potentially be. Can everyone hear me okay? Rich?
No, I can't hear you at all, Steve.
Okay, I just heard someone say that they couldn't hear me. Okay, I'll carry on then. So this is from Howard and Beverly. If all of my hot opportunity lists are from multiple, or should I say diverse categories of Amazon, is it better to create one brand for all products, or should I create multiple subsidiaries under one parent company? You're looking quite far ahead here, but if you're looking at possibly selling in different categories, then maybe when you do your first brand, you kind of want to make it fairly generic, so not sort of product specific, and then you can launch any sort of products under any different category under the same brand. I hope that answers your question. This is my last one, Rich. This is from Nick Wicks as well. Are Jungle Scouts revenue amounts reliable right now? As of November and December are Christmas present season and products will be seen an increase in sales. If a product I'm looking at currently has 7,000 monthly revenue, how can I be sure that it is consistent sales and not just Christmas inflation? I don't worry. I wouldn't look at the revenue numbers. The revenue numbers are pretty much all over the place at the moment. Some of them just don't make any sense. So we don't use revenue numbers as part of the training either. You're more interested in the BSR. So if you're seeing anything a little bit strange in the BSR or even the revenue, then click on the BSR history and you can see exactly what has been going on. I think that's me done, Rich.
I was contemplating leaving you hanging, but I'm not going to do that. Fabulous job, Steve. For everyone out there, Steve's the only person I know who does more product searches than I do. So when he talks about product selection and going like deep into like many pages, and you heard it come straight from his mouth, he finds products past page 100. So keep going. Like there's no need to stop. Take breaks, come back and do it again. But fabulous job, Steve. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'm going to close the call now. No, I'm kidding. I've got a bunch of questions. I was really enjoying listening to these guys answer all these questions. But now I've got to do some myself. Plus Steve's left now, so I'm all on my own. Speaking of that, by the way, Mike is, I've got to be careful how I say this. He's ill. He's too ill to come on the call, but it's not life-threatening or anything. But he's just in a bit of a mess at the moment. So I won't go into details. But he'll be back. But he'll be back. I'm surprised he's not even on the back end answering questions. But the next time we have a call, he'll be back, so he won't be just stuck with me and the mentors, although I think it's better. So anyway, questions. The first one is from Sylvia Volmar. In the first coaching call, you're talking about being physically in the USA when wanting to open a bank account in the USA. I know this TransferWise she mentions here can open up personal business bank accounts in the US because TransferWise has banking partners here and they're able to provide people with bank accounts. Not actually true. And actually, you kind of explain it yourself because you go on, even when not being in those countries. However, the account holder name wouldn't only be my name. It'd be TransferWise FBO and then your name. So essentially, that's what Payoneer does. Payoneer creates an account that you can use, but it's not the same as an American bank account. Okay. TransferWise, like, we don't recommend using them. Payoneer is much simpler. It's much easier to get approved. And they've been working with Amazon for 6 years or more now. And plus they give you this wonderful thing called a Payoneer statement, which actually helps a lot when it comes to verification. So my personal advice, and I'm only saying this from personal experience, is if you're in a group 2 or 3 country and you need a service, use Payoneer or World First. Both of those we know work and work really well. TransferWise I don't know about, but don't be misled. They don't actually open a bank account for you. They open an account which you can use. It's a big difference. And you know, like you say, they're putting their name on it, on the bank account as the name of the account holder. Whereas with Payoneer, it's your name, or you can even set it up with a business name. This one's from Process. I kind of like that name. When searching for primary products, I'm thinking the monthly revenue should be high, like at least 25K or more. Any less than that, how do you make money? You can make money with a lot less than that. You have to take into account, first of all, as well, is your profit margins. Obviously, your profit margins are really, really important. If you've got a decent profit margin, then 10,000 a month revenue is perfectly good to start with. You know, this is your first product. The most important thing is that you get that product up there and that it's making enough sales. And as I say, I think 10K, and as long as you're getting 30%, 25% or more profit margin, 10K is a perfectly good number to start with. I'd be really happy with that as my first product. You know, when you move on to your second products, you can always look for bigger ones, but it's so important to get that product up there. And one of the advantages you'll have with slightly lower revenue is it's very likely that the competition is going to be lower too. But that's all taken into account if you use all the ASM criteria. But don't let that worry you. You don't have to be looking for 25K or less or more, sorry. 10K is a really good number. This is another one from Sylvia Volmar. When the product doesn't have a keyword, Fitbit Flex, or some other fitness tracker, for example, you've just given me the keyword. It's fitness tracker. That's a perfectly good keyword for Fitbit. And then you're going on, should I delete it from the JS list? There is not a product on Amazon that doesn't have a keyword. because essentially, don't get hung up on a keyword. It's just look at the product. What would you type into a search engine or to Amazon search or even eBay or wherever to find that product? If you wanted to buy that kind of product, what would you type into that search box? And that's your keyword. You know, as I said, for the Fitbit Flex, fitness tracker is probably, I'm obviously not really into fitness, but I'm assuming for Fitbit Flex, fitness tracker is a perfectly good word. Just because it's got like that name, that doesn't mean that name's the keyword. However, in saying that, Fitbit Flex, not something I'd go after. That's I'm sure that's just an example you were using. But just think about it. If you know, try and come up with a keyword phrase, if that's the best way to think of it. Call a friend, message, Skype a friend. Hey, say, hey, if you were looking for this product, what would you type into Amazon to find it? And that's it. It's a lot more simple than I probably made it sound, but that's what you're looking for. This one's from Bill Shep 333. I already have a Jungle Scout account. How can I get credit for my badge? Contact our support. Tell them you've already got Jungle Scout. Can you have your badge? They will go, yes, you can have your badge, and give you your badge. Eskarami, would you please let me know, would you please let me know, for example, why this product with a BSR ranking of 5859 is on page 1? Also, a product with more than 10,000 is on BSR 1, and it's not sponsored. What other factor makes a product show on the first page? Random? Excuse me. You will get anomalies. You see, I'm surprised you're not seeing it every time you go for a search. You know, when we talk about using that the search string to put them in order, it's a rough order. It's not absolutely spot on. And it will always throw up anomalies. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's outside the BSR range, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you, if you go and search that same search again in a couple of days' time, it won't be there. If you actually search that product for that product's keyword, I guarantee you it's on like, it's probably got a BSR of like, a keyword ranking of, I don't know, like 500 or even worse. So don't let that worry, just ignore it. It's just an anomaly. In case you were like, maybe you were thinking about being really sneaky, and how do you do that? There's no way of doing it. It's just a random anomaly. That's all it is. Howard and Beverly, I am certain about getting an LLC. It is more advisable to open one now before I start selling and/or before having my brand. Will it require more work and complications if I do it afterwards? First of all, I definitely wouldn't recommend creating a brand new LLC to create your Seller Central account. I did mention that in the training. It's easier to just go ahead, use your personal information, get the account set up, get it approved. Some point you do that. Then, if you want to use an LLC, and it's, you know, we do recommend that further down the road, but you can do it earlier if you wish. Create the LLC, create the bank account for the LLC. Make sure you get a credit card or debit card with that bank account. And then use that bank account. So like over a couple of months, you can probably do it in a month actually, you know, make sure you make, you know, between 5 and 10 transactions on that bank account. Because when you then go and add your LLC and your LLC bank account, they may well ask you for documentation, which means, in other words, a bank statement, which you'll have to send them. If you send them a bank statement with 1 or 2, the odds are, you know, if you've already been approved and you're adding an LLC, you'll be fine. But they tend to reject bank statements that are too new. And that's one of the reasons we say that it's easier to go ahead and just set up the account with the personal name and then change it to an LLC later. B_KH. When we search for keywords, the Jungle Scout shows some measure for that keyword, like minimum competition, medium demand, blah, 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 all those kind of things. I'm gonna have to check this. I'm pretty sure I said in the training, ignore it. Do not look at any of those things on any of the tools, really. Any of the tools you see us talk about, only use what we instruct you to use. We took a look at those, the medium competition and medium demand, and we found that they weren't particularly accurate. And it's too broad a thing to say as well, medium demand, medium competition. Just stick with the BSRs and the revenues and the reviews. Don't worry about those things that Jungle Scout is showing you. Just ignore them. You know, like, it's kind of interesting just to look up at it, but I don't, honestly, now I've got so used to it, I don't even notice it's there. Sometimes someone will say that to me, I'm like, what? I'm going, oh yeah, that. I literally just don't look at it. Cisnabella, I already have a Helium 10 account. Is it possible to join the accounts to receive the current discount we have there and add the free trial package on the current account? I don't know. So the deal we got is for people opening a new account. So I think it's unlikely you'll be able to then take advantage, to merge that account and switch to the new, the different payment scale or whatever it is. Contact their support and ask them. That's all I would suggest. As I say, like they were, like, when we negotiated a deal with them, it was specified by them that it should be for people who don't already have an account. But message them. You never know. Be nice. You may persuade them to do that for you. Yeah, I'm not going to try that. I was looking at it thinking, yeah, I'm going to give that a go, but no, I'm not going to give it a go. And it's not even one that Mike's messed with because he's not here. I just signed up for Seller Central and was successful. Good job. Can I use my phone bill as a utility bill when requested, as I do not have all the major bills in my name at my home? Yes, you can, but they might not ask. They are reviewing accounts more often now, and there's a lot of it we're sure is just random. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong or there's anything suspicious. It's just a random thing now where they're reviewing accounts. A phone bill will be accepted as a utility bill as long as it has your name and the address exactly the same as you put into Seller Central. It should be fine. And you mentioned you got all the other documents. It's unlikely that since your account's been approved, you'll be asked for anything else now other than a utility bill, and a phone bill will be fine. Rengist. In past coaching calls, you mentioned more than once that you recommend to use existing bank account to open a Seller Central account. I don't have any track records in the country where I live now, and I'm starting from scratch here. Internet bill and utility bill starting this month. Bank account just opened yesterday. Do you have any recommendations before I start to open my Seller Central account? Depending what country you're in, it might be okay. It's just a little. They just can be picky, and honestly, the amount of people I help with this and the amount of ones I see that get rejected and then approved. A lot of, I think, is down to who sees that application or whatever. My advice is go put some money in that bank account, go make some transactions. As I said before, you want 5 to 10 transactions. They could be small amounts, you don't have to buy anything exceptional, and they don't have to be related to this business either. Just go make 4 or 5 transactions or more so they appear. So when you ask for a statement, they'll appear on there. And just remember that the statement has to show your name and address, and it must also show the name of the bank and the bank's information. Utility bill is fine. If you've just got one, that's fine. You shouldn't have any issues. Looking at what you're saying here, I would just wait a couple of weeks. Like I say, get the transactions on the bank account, wait till your utilities have been in use for a couple of weeks and request a statement. But do that before you actually try and open your account. And Christina Zima, can I use a new bank account for Seller Central account? I kind of just answered that. You can, but make sure you put transactions on there. You want at least 5, preferably between 5 and 10, before you get the statement. Ashvata, looking for hot opportunities now and found a couple that I don't know what to do with. Hopefully I can help you. One product is a one of a kind and only being sold by one seller. All the criteria match, except there is no other competition really. I'll just stop there. You go on to say more. No, you must have 2 competing products. The odds are it could be a brand new product, so no one else is selling it yet, or it could have I would suspect it's got a patent or trademark on it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't match the criteria. You've got one product, you've got a primary product, but you've got no competing products. So it doesn't match the criteria, so kick it into touch. The other product doesn't have enough competition in the sense that Jungle Scout only shows me one product with matching criteria. Oh, that's part of the same question. I thought it was 2 separate questions. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, the criteria is there for a reason, okay? The products must match the criteria. If they don't, delete it. Or if you're really passionate about that product, and in this situation, it could be a brand new product. Put it in a list somewhere, a back burner list of products you want to look at later, and go back and look at it in 2 weeks time, 4 weeks time. See if suddenly there's another competitor. But if it's got no competitors, then delete it, because it's the odds are, like I say, it's either got a patent or a trademark, or there won't be enough demand. And I've got a bunch of questions from the same person here. I'm just going to say, I'm guessing they've done it a weird way, but I think they're trying to say ASMX boy. Anyway, so one thing I would say to you is go back and watch the training. I will answer your questions by all means, but I think you're missing. I think going through the training again will give you a better idea of what you should be doing. But I will answer these. But please go back and watch the product selection videos again. When finding competing products, if one looks the same but the keywords are not matching with the primary product, can we add that to our list? No, like if it doesn't match, it has to match the keyword. It has to be the same product or the same type of product. So if it doesn't match, then it's not a competing product. So boom, delete it. Or don't use that to verify that primary product. When finding competing products, if the primary product has a 2-pack, so the competing product should have 2 packs to add to the list. Correct. It has to be the same product. Okay, so for instance, if it was I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Oh, a drying rack we saw earlier, a wood drying rack. Then it has to be a wood drying rack, not a plastic one or a stainless steel one or anything like that. The product needs to be same or as similar as it possibly can be. So if you're looking at a 2-pack, then you can't go and compare it with a 10-pack or even a single pack. Okay, it needs to be a 2-pack. Same person again. When finding competing products, is that the same? Literally the same beginning to for what I think it is. The primary product and competing product looks the same, but different color. They're not the same brand. Should I add the competing product to the list? If it's a single product, so in other words, if you're looking at, I'm looking around here, remote control. I mean, obviously never do a remote control. But if remote control was your primary product and it was blue, and then one of the competing products was red, but it was a single product, it didn't have variations and all that kind of thing, then that's fine. Like if it's something where the color isn't going to make a difference, then it's fine. What you have to be aware of is its variation. So in other words, if you've got like a product, your primary products are 6 different colors, and then your competing products have 4 different colors or 8 different colors, it becomes more difficult because Joanna actually explained this to a question earlier. You don't know like which one's the best seller because you may think, well, it doesn't matter. But if you've got a product that's got 8 different colors, one of those products could be, and I see this every day. Like I've got, members that are selling products that have got multiple variations. I've got products that sell multiple variations, and you see it all the time. It doesn't make sense, but it does. It's just the way it is. One color will sell more than the others, which is why we say stay away from variations. I got a bit off track there, but yeah. So if it's a single product, one's black and one's red, you can add it as a competing product. The last one, oh no, we've still got 2 more from this member. When finding competing products, if the primary product is $30 and the competing product is $12, should I add that competing product to the list? No. So let me say it a different way. So if you one of the competing products has a lower price, I'm going to say right now $12 looks a bit low. But if you look at the list of the first 10 competing products, and in general, the price is lower than what we recommended, in other words, below $17, then it's a big, big red flag. Okay, in an ideal world, all of them should be at least $17. You're going to get anomalies. You're going to get someone that might have dropped their price to raise, have a boost to their sales or something like that. But generally speaking, if you're looking at the primary product being $30, and most of the competing products are like $12, $13, $14, then it's something I would stay away from because there's a reason why that primary product can justify that $30 and no one else can. And the last one from ASMX boy, when finding competing products, tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. The primary product is standard size and the competing product is XL. Obviously, I should not add the competing product to list. It sounds like, so standard size could be very close to being oversized, which is assuming what you mean by XL. And the XL product could be very close to being normal size. So if they are very close in size, then that's okay. But for instance, if one remote control was like 3 inches by 2 inches, and the other remote control was like 2 feet by 3 feet, I know that's ridiculous. But if there's a massive difference, in other words, if it's not the same product, then you would stay away from it. And I don't know, this is my last question, so I don't know why I'm saying that because there's no one else to come after me. I'm completely left all on my own on this call now. Leach and Preset, something like that. Anyway, we have food paste products in the grocery categories in Canada. Okay, you're selling in, I'm assuming you mean Amazon.Canada. Amazon Canada. It has no direct competing product in the same size or packaging, yet it is not in the bestseller category. Do you think we can market this product into the USA? Amazon. Our products are Amazon Choice in Canada. What is Amazon Choice though? It just means like it's the best-selling product with the best feedback. There's a few bits more criteria, but it's a good thing. Put it that way. So what you're basically saying is that it doesn't match the criteria in the US. However, you're already selling that product. You've already got that product. You're manufacturing that product, or someone's manufacturing it for you. Give it a shot in the US. Like, it's no big deal for you to do that. It's an existing product that you're selling. It might sell really well. You know, you don't know. But the fact is, you've done all the most difficult parts of having your own product because you've got your own product. Absolutely. Give it a shot. Send a couple of 100 units to the US. And see how it goes. You know, you might find that it's such a good product, because obviously it is a good product if it's in Canada and it's got the choice badge. So give it a shot by all means. If you didn't already have that product, then I would say no. But the fact is, you have that product, and it's just going to be a case of, you know, shipping a couple of 100 units down to Amazon US and see how it all goes. That's really it. So we're kind of at the end. Again, we're over an hour. Fantastic questions. It never ceases to amaze me as you move through the course. Even people starting at the beginning too, is, you know, you come up with some great questions, and it shows you're taking action too. So, you know, we may joke around a bit, but at the end of the day, you know, you're taking action. You're asking questions because you are taking action. If you weren't taking action, you wouldn't be asking questions. I guess it's that simple. But before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to our mentors. This is not easy. Mike and I have been doing it. Well, I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years. Mike's been doing it for 3 years. You get used to it, like being live on a call, talking to the camera, whatever, answering questions live. It's hard when you first start, and it's daunting too. Like, it's a little bit scary. So huge shout out to our mentors who managed to come on the call. So Joanne, to Tracy, to Steve, you all did a phenomenal job. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to come on more often so I have to do less work. Yeah, I am. No, absolutely fantastic. You gave some great